The great hall of the Galactic Council buzzed with voices from 100 different worlds. Ambassador Taemin stood at the center podium, his dark eyes scanning the crowd of alien faces before him. He had called this meeting to discuss something that had puzzled the galaxy for 300 years. "Fellow beings of the Council," Taemin began, his voice carrying clearly through the vast chamber. "Today we speak of the humans, the species that simply vanished without a trace." A low murmur rippled through the audience. The Zephyrians clicked their mandibles nervously. The Valerians shifted their crystalline forms, creating soft, chiming sounds. Even the massive Korathan delegates leaned forward with interest. Taemin activated the holographic display behind him. Images of 12 small worlds appeared, floating in the air like miniature planets. These were their colonies, modest settlements on the edge of known space. The humans were not a powerful race. They had basic ships, simple weapons, and small populations on each world. The display changed, showing human settlements bustling with activity. Markets filled with people, children playing in parks, ships landing and taking off from busy spaceports. It looked peaceful and ordinary. But then, Taemin continued, in the year 2387 something happened that we still cannot explain. The holographic scene suddenly went dark. Empty cities appeared on the screen, silent spaceports with no ships, abandoned homes with meals still on tables, as if people had simply disappeared mid-bite. Every human settlement went quiet on the same day, at the same hour. No distress calls, no signs of battle, no evidence of disease or disaster. They were simply gone. Sora, a xenoarchaeologist sitting in the front row, raised her hand. Taemin nodded to her. "Ambassador, my team has studied the abandoned human sites for decades. We found something strange." Sora stood and walked to a smaller display panel. The humans left behind technology that should not have existed. New images appeared showing complex machines and devices that looked far more advanced than anything the humans had been known to possess. "These energy generators are more efficient than our best Zephyrian models," Sora explained. "These computer systems use quantum processing we barely understand. The humans were supposedly a basic civilization, but they had technology that rivals our most advanced species." Jin Woo, the Council's security chief, spoke up from his position near the back. "My investigation teams have reported energy readings from the former human worlds. Strange readings that appear and disappear without pattern." "What kind of energy?" asked a Valerian counselor, her crystal body glowing brighter with curiosity. "Unknown signatures," Jin Woo replied. "Our sensors detect massive power sources, but when we arrive to investigate, there is nothing there. It happens across all 12 former human worlds, sometimes several times per month." Taemin nodded grimly. "This brings us to why I called this meeting. The human mystery is no longer just a historical curiosity. Something is happening." The display changed again, showing star maps with blinking indicators scattered across the galaxy. In the past year, ships from various species have reported strange encounters, invisible barriers that prevent passage through certain space routes, pirates who attack peaceful vessels and then mysteriously lose all power to their weapons, trade ships that develop engine problems near human space, only to have those problems fix themselves moments later. "Are you suggesting the humans are still out there?" asked the Korathan delegate, his massive form rumbling with skepticism. "I am suggesting we do not know what happened to them," Taemin replied carefully. "But evidence points to possibilities we must consider." Sora stepped forward again. "During my excavations, I found something else. Hidden beneath the main settlement on their world called New Busan, there was a vault. Inside were star charts showing every inhabited system in the galaxy, not just the ones that existed when humans disappeared, but systems that have been colonized since then." The chamber fell silent. How could humans from 300 years ago have maps of colonies that did not exist until decades after their disappearance? "The charts were not old," Sora continued. "Carbon dating showed they were created within the last 50 years. Someone with human technology has been watching the galaxy grow and change." Jin Woo activated his own display from his seat. "Security reports from the past year show a pattern. Aggressive species that attack peaceful worlds often experience mysterious equipment failures. The Kraken raiders lost their entire fleet's weapons systems just before they were supposed to attack the Harmony trade station. The Void Hunters had their ships locked in place for 3 days after threatening a refugee convoy." Coincidences, muttered the Korathan delegate. Perhaps, Jin Wu agreed, but the pattern is clear. Those who threaten peace face unexplained, technical problems. Those who help others often find their ships repaired overnight or their supplies mysteriously restocked. Taemin pulled up one final image. It showed a vast structure floating in deep space, barely visible against the stars. The shape was clearly artificial, but unlike anything any known species had built. This was discovered last week by a deep space probe. It sits exactly halfway between the former human worlds and the galactic core. Our best estimates suggest it is larger than a moon, but it does not appear on any gravitational sensors. It is there, but it is also not there. What does this mean? Asked a nervous Zephyrian counselor. It means, Taemin said slowly, that we may not be alone in thinking about the humans. Something or someone has been watching us. The question is whether they are friend or foe. The chamber erupted in worried chatter. Representatives from different species spoke rapidly to their advisors. Security personnel checked their communication devices. The peaceful routine of galactic politics had suddenly become much more complicated. What do you recommend? Asked the Valerian counselor. Taemin looked around the chamber at faces both alien and familiar. I recommend we prepare. We do not know what the truth about the humans really is. They may be gone forever, victims of some disaster we cannot understand. They may be hiding, watching us from the shadows. Or they may be something else entirely. We increase patrols around former human space. We study the artifacts more carefully. We monitor the energy readings and try to make contact if possible. And we stay ready for anything. As the council session ended and representatives filed out, Sora approached Taemin. Do you really think they are still out there? She asked quietly. Taemin stared at the holographic display still showing the mysterious structure in space. I think, he said slowly, that we are about to find out. The humans were never as simple as we thought. If they are still alive, they have had 300 years to grow and change. That is either very good news for the galaxy or very bad news. Sora followed his gaze to the strange structure on the display. What if they come back? Then we will learn what humanity has become, Taemin replied. And we will discover whether we should welcome them as friends or fear them as something far more powerful than we ever imagined. Outside the council chambers, the stars seemed to twinkle with new meaning. Somewhere among them, answers waited. The galaxy had lived with the mystery of vanished humanity for 3 centuries. Soon, that mystery might finally be solved, but the solution might be more shocking than anyone could possibly prepare for. Captain Hee-jin guided her cargo ship through the asteroid belt with practiced ease. She had been running supplies between the outer colonies for 15 years and knew every dangerous rock in this sector. Her ship, the Lucky Star, was old, but reliable. Today, she was carrying medical supplies to a mining station when something impossible happened. Her navigation system suddenly lit up with warnings. According to her instruments, there was a massive object directly ahead. But when Hye-jin looked out the view screen, she saw only empty space and distant stars. Computer, run a full sensor sweep, she commanded. Sensors detect no objects in flight path, the computer replied in its calm, mechanical voice. But the warnings kept flashing. Her ship slowed to a stop as if hitting an invisible wall. Hye-jin tried to engage the engines, but nothing happened. She was stuck in empty space with no explanation. Then her communication system activated on its own. Numbers began appearing on her screen, mathematical sequences that she did not recognize. The numbers were complex, but seemed to follow a pattern. As she watched, more numbers appeared, building into longer and longer equations. Hello? Hye-jin called out. Is someone there? The numbers stopped. For a moment, her screen was blank. Then a single line of text appeared. Safe travels, Captain Kim. Her engines came back online immediately. The invisible barrier was gone. Her ship was free to move again. But how did whoever contacted her know her family name? Her ship was registered under her first name only. Hee-jin checked her sensor logs, but they showed nothing unusual. According to her ship's records, she had stopped for routine maintenance, not because of any mysterious barrier. Someone or something had changed her ship's memory banks. 3 sectors away, Dong-hyun sat in the command center of the Zephyrian Defense Station. As a military strategist, He spent his days studying attack patterns and fleet movements. Today, he was reviewing reports of recent pirate activity when he noticed something strange. "Computer, show me the locations of all pirate raids in the past month," he requested. A star map appeared with red dots marking each attack. Dong-hyun frowned. The pattern made no sense. Pirates usually attacked trade routes and wealthy colonies. But these raids seemed random. Some targeted important shipping lanes, while others hit worthless asteroid mining operations. "Now show me the results of each raid," Dong-hyun continued. The computer displayed success rates for each attack. Dong-hyun's confusion grew deeper. The pirates had failed in their raids 60% of the time, which was unusual. Pirates typically only attacked when they were sure of success. "Show me how the raids failed." The reports were bizarre. The Crimson Fleet had lost all power to their weapons, just as they surrounded a passenger liner. The Bloodclaw raiders found their ships unable to move when they tried to board a medical transport. The Iron Skull pirates had their entire computer network crash during an attack on a school ship carrying children to a new colony. But when the same pirate groups attacked military targets or cargo ships carrying weapons, they succeeded without any problems. It was as if someone was protecting innocent civilians while allowing attacks on legitimate military targets to proceed. Dong-hyun pulled up older records going back several months. The pattern was consistent. Any pirate group that threatened civilians faced mysterious technical failures. Any group that stuck to military or corporate targets had normal success rates. "This is impossible," Dong-hyun muttered. No one had the technology to selectively disable pirate ships across multiple star systems. Even the most advanced civilizations could not coordinate that kind of intervention over such vast distances. At the Meridian Communication Array, Subin was working the night shift monitoring deep space transmissions when her equipment detected something unusual. Buried in the background noise of cosmic radiation, there was a signal. It was faint and seemed to use a frequency that should not exist. Subin isolated the signal and ran it through the translation matrix. The result was a series of mathematical proofs, each more complex than anything she had seen before. The mathematics dealt with space-time manipulation, energy conversion, and something called consciousness transfer. "These equations," Subin whispered to herself, "they show how to bend space itself." She tried to trace the source of the signal, but her instruments could not locate it. The transmission seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at the same time. It was as if someone was broadcasting directly into the fabric of space itself. Subin called her supervisor, but when he arrived, the signal was gone. Her equipment showed no record of receiving anything unusual. Yet Subin still had the mathematical equations on her personal tablet, where she had copied them. Meanwhile, Dr. Min-ho was studying gravitational anomalies at the Deep Space Observatory, when he discovered something that should not exist. His instruments detected regions of space where gravity worked differently. In these areas, massive objects like asteroids moved as if they weighed nothing, while tiny particles behaved as if they had enormous mass. "The laws of physics are being rewritten," Min-ho told his research assistant, "but only in specific locations and only for short periods of time." The anomalies appeared near trade routes, where pirate attacks had recently failed. They also showed up around damaged ships that had been mysteriously repaired overnight. Someone was manipulating fundamental forces of nature with precision that seemed impossible. Min-ho's equipment detected energy signatures during these anomalies, but they did not match any known technology. The power levels were enormous, equivalent to the output of an entire star, yet they were focused with surgical precision on tiny areas of space. Back on her cargo ship, Hyojin received another strange encounter. This time she was carrying refugees from a war zone when her sensors detected a fleet of warships approaching. The ships belonged to the Savage Tide, a group known for taking prisoners to sell as slaves. Hyojin prepared to run, but her ship was too slow and too heavy with passengers to escape. The warships surrounded her and demanded she surrender her cargo. "Prepare to be boarded," came the harsh voice over the communication system, but as the first boarding craft approached, something happened to the warship fleet. Their engines shut down one by one. Their weapons went offline. Their communication systems failed. Within minutes, the entire fleet was drifting helplessly in space. Hyojin's ship received a new message, this time in text that appeared directly on her screen. "Continue to safety. The passengers are under protection." Her ship's engines suddenly became much more powerful. Her cargo hold expanded to provide more comfortable space for the refugees. Her medical supplies multiplied until she had enough to treat everyone who needed help. "Who are you?" Heejin transmitted into space. No answer came, but she noticed that her ship's computer now had star charts showing the safest route to the refugee colony. The charts were more detailed and accurate than anything in official databases. Dong Hyun compiled all the reports from across his sector and sent them to military headquarters. The response came back quickly. Similar patterns were being observed throughout the galaxy. Someone with incredible technology was intervening in conflicts, protecting civilians, and maintaining peace. But who has this kind of power? Dong Hyun wondered aloud. His computer chimed with an incoming message. The text read, "Those who remember that strength serves peace, not conquest." Dong Hyun tried to trace the message, but it had no source. His communication system had no record of receiving anything. Subin continued monitoring for the strange signals and found them appearing more frequently. Each transmission contained advanced scientific knowledge, formulas for clean energy, cures, for diseases, technologies that could feed entire planets. But the knowledge came in pieces, as if someone was gradually sharing secrets with those who would use them wisely. Dr. Min-ho detected more gravitational anomalies, and this time he was ready. He tracked them to their source and discovered something that made his hands shake as he recorded his observations. The anomalies were coming from ships, invisible ships that existed in normal space but could not be detected by any known sensors. The ships were massive, larger than anything any civilization had ever built, and there were dozens of them, positioned throughout the galaxy like silent guardians. "We are being watched," Min-ho realized. "We have always been watched." As reports flowed in from across the galaxy, a picture began to emerge. Someone with technology beyond imagination was monitoring galactic civilization. They protected the innocent, punished the cruel, and slowly shared knowledge with those ready to receive it. The Watchers were patient, careful, and incredibly powerful. They had the ability to disable entire fleets, manipulate physics itself, and appear anywhere in the galaxy instantly. But who were they? And why were they finally beginning to reveal themselves after centuries of hiding in the shadows? The answers would come soon. The Watchers were preparing to step out of the darkness and into the light. The galaxy was about to meet its hidden guardians face to face. The Korthak Empire had been planning their greatest conquest for months. Admiral Vex-Tar commanded a fleet of 2,000 warships, the largest armada ever assembled by his people. Their target was the Harmony Trade Hub, a peaceful station where dozens of species conducted business and diplomacy. "The weak races gather in one place," Vex-Tar growled to his officers. "We will capture them all and make them serve the Empire." The Korthak fleet moved through space like a deadly storm. Their ships were bristling with weapons and filled with warriors eager for battle. They had crushed 17 civilizations in Ayan the past decade and saw no reason why this would be different. But as they approached the Harmony Station, something impossible happened. The entire fleet suddenly stopped moving. Every ship, from the massive command vessels to the smallest fighters, came to a complete halt in the middle of empty space. "Report!" Vex-Tar bellowed. "Engines are functional, Admiral," his chief engineer replied, confusion clear in his voice. "All systems show green, but we cannot move." "Fire at the station," Vex-Tar ordered. "Weapons will not respond, Admiral. They are powered, but will not activate." On the bridge of his flagship, Vex-Tar watched his sensor screens in growing alarm. His fleet was completely paralyzed, held in place by some invisible force that his instruments could not detect. Then something appeared on the main view screen that made the entire bridge crew fall silent. A single ship materialized out of nothing, as if it had been invisible and chose to become visible. The vessel was unlike anything they had ever seen. It was sleek and elegant, with curves that seemed to flow like water. The hull appeared to be made of a material that shifted between different colors, sometimes metallic silver, sometimes deep blue, sometimes transparent like crystal. The ship was not large compared to the massive Korthak warships, but something about it made the hardened warriors nervous. It moved with impossible grace, sliding through space as if the laws of physics did not apply to it. "Unknown vessel," Vex-Tar transmitted. Identify yourself and release our ships immediately. The response came not as a voice transmission, but as text that appeared directly on every screen in the Korthak fleet. The words seemed to write themselves in the air. We are the ones you call human. We never left. Vextar's blood went cold. Humans were supposed to be extinct, vanished centuries ago. They were a minor species with primitive technology. This had to be some kind of trick. Impossible, he growled. The humans are gone. The elegant ship moved closer, and now the Korthak could see details that made no sense. The hull seemed to repair itself as they watched, small scratches from space dust healing instantly. Energy flowed across the surface in patterns that looked almost alive. The ship was not just advanced, it was beyond their understanding of what was possible. Inside the human vessel, Commander Yunseo stood on a bridge that looked more like a garden than a military command center. Plants grew from walls that seemed to be made of living crystal. The air hummed with energy that felt warm and peaceful. Her crew moved with calm efficiency, their hands dancing over control surfaces that responded to thought as much as touch. Jae-hyun, Yunseo said to her chief engineer, "Show them what we have learned during our time away." Jae-hyun nodded and gestured to his console. Around the Korthak fleet, space itself began to change. Asteroids appeared out of nothing, perfectly arranged in geometric patterns. A small moon materialized nearby, complete with an atmosphere and growing forests. Stars shifted in the distance, rearranging themselves into new constellations. We have learned to work with the universe instead of against it. Yunseo's voice reached every ship in the Korthak fleet, though she had not spoken into any transmitter. Matter and energy obey our will because we understand their true nature. The Phi. Demonstrations continued. Damaged Korthak ships found their hull breaches sealing themselves. Broken weapons repaired themselves, but would only fire harmless light instead of deadly energy. The fleet's food supplies multiplied until every ship had enough provisions for years. "This is impossible," Vextar whispered. But his words carried, to the human ship, as if he had shouted them. 300 years ago, came Yunseo's voice. We realized that the galaxy was trapped in an endless cycle of war and conquest. The strong attacked the weak sought to become strong, and no one ever found peace. So we chose a different path. Bo Young, the diplomatic envoy, stepped forward on the human bridge. Her words reached not just the Korthak fleet, but every inhabited world within 100 light years. We withdrew from galactic society not because we were weak, but because we needed time to grow. Time to learn. Time to become something better than what we were. Images began appearing on screens throughout the Korthak fleet. They showed human colonies that existed beyond the edge of known space. Cities that floated in clouds of pure energy. Worlds where the landscape could be reshaped with a thought. People who seemed to glow with inner light, their bodies enhanced beyond normal biological limits. We spent our centuries mastering science that your people call impossible. Yunseo continued. We learned to transfer consciousness between bodies, to manipulate matter at the quantum level, to fold space and time like origami. But most importantly, we learned that true power comes from protecting others, not conquering them. Hyun Woo, the military advisor, activated another demonstration. Throughout the galaxy, invisible barriers became visible for just a moment. Millions of them, surrounding every inhabited world, every trade route, every peaceful colony. The barriers had been there for decades, protecting civilian populations from raiders and conquerors. We have been watching, Hyun-woo explained. Every act of aggression against the innocent, we have prevented when possible. Every peaceful civilization under threat we have shielded. You have lived in a galaxy that has been quietly protected by guardians you never knew existed. The Korthak warriors stared at their screens in shock. Their empire had launched dozens of conquests over the years, but they were now seeing evidence that many more had been planned and mysteriously thwarted. Ships that had broken down at crucial moments, weapons that had malfunctioned during attacks on civilian targets, raids that had been abandoned due to sudden equipment failures. You, Vextar realized with growing horror, you have been stopping us. We have been trying to guide you toward better choices, Yunseo replied gently. But you persist in choosing war over peace, conquest over cooperation. This must end. The human ship moved through the Korthak fleet like a dancer through still water. As it passed each warship, changes occurred. Weapons transformed into tools for building instead of destroying. Armor plating became materials for constructing homes and hospitals. Military computers gained new programming focused on protecting life rather than taking it. Your ships can still travel, Yunseo explained. Your people can still explore the stars, but you will no longer be able to use your technology to harm others. Every vessel in your fleet is now incapable of aggressive action. You cannot do this to us, Vextar raged. We already have, came the calm reply. Your choice now is simple. Learn to live in peace with your neighbors or find yourselves increasingly isolated as the galaxy moves toward cooperation and away from conquest. The human ship began to fade from view, becoming transparent and then invisible once again. Wait, Vextar called out. What if we refuse? What if we find ways to build new weapons? Yunseo's final words reached him clearly. Then you will discover that we have had 3 centuries to prepare for every possible response. We are patient, Admiral. We can wait as long as necessary for you to choose wisdom over warfare. The invisible barriers holding the Korthak fleet released them. Their ships were free to move again, but their weapons would never again be able to harm peaceful civilians. As the fleet began its long journey home, reports flooded in from across the galaxy. Human ships had appeared at dozens of conflict zones, simultaneously. Aggressive civilizations found their militaries transformed into forces for construction and aid. Peaceful species discovered new technologies appearing overnight that solved their energy, food, and medical problems. Humanity had returned to the galaxy, but not as conquerors. They had evolved into something unprecedented in galactic history, a species with unlimited power that chose to use it only for protection and guidance. The age of endless war was ending. The age of guided peace had begun, and it had started with 3 simple words that would echo through history. We never left. The planet Xerion had been dying for 100 years. Once a lush world with blue oceans and green forests, it was now a barren wasteland of red dust and poisoned air. The Xerion people had fought a civil war that lasted decades using weapons. That turned their beautiful home into a toxic desert. Now, only 50,000 survivors remained, living in underground shelters and slowly starving as their last food supplies ran out. They had sent desperate calls for help across the galaxy, but no one had the technology to repair damage so severe. That changed the day Wu Jin arrived. His ship landed softly in the planet's largest crater, where a city of 2 million people had once stood. The Xerion leaders emerged from their bunkers to meet him, their faces covered with breathing masks to protect them from the poisoned air. You are human, said Elder Kesna, her voice filled with wonder. We heard rumors that your people had returned. Wu Jin nodded, removing his helmet to breathe the toxic air as if it were perfectly clean. His modified human lungs could process any atmosphere. We have been away for a long time, but we never stopped caring about worlds like yours. Our planet is dead, another elder said sadly. Nothing can grow here anymore. The soil is poison, the water is acid, and the air burns our lungs. We are the last generation of our people. No, Wu Jin said gently. You are the first generation of a new beginning. He walked to the center of the crater and placed his hands on the dead ground. The earth began to glow with soft blue light that spread outward in all directions. Where the light touched, the red dust transformed into rich, dark soil. Poisoned water bubbled up from underground springs, but it ran clear and pure. The Xerion. People watched in amazement as their dead world came back to life before their eyes. Grass sprouted from the new soil. Trees grew from saplings to full size in minutes. Flowers bloomed, releasing sweet scents that replaced the bitter smell of toxins. How is this possible? Elder Kesna whispered. We have learned to work with life itself, Wu Jin explained. Every atom remembers what it was before it was poisoned. We simply help it remember how to be healthy again. The healing spread across the entire planet in waves. Oceans cleared from poison green to crystal blue. Mountains shed their coating of toxic dust to reveal the silver stone beneath. Forests grew so quickly that the Xerian people could watch. Trees reached toward the sky in real time. But the most amazing transformation was in the air. With each breath, the Xerian people found it easier to breathe. They removed their breathing masks and filled their lungs with clean, sweet air for the first time in decades. Your world will be more beautiful than it ever was before, Wu Jin promised. The soil will be richer, the water cleaner, the air purer. Your children will grow up in a paradise. News of Xerian's miracle spread quickly through the galaxy. On the medical station orbiting Kepler Prime, Dr. Nari was performing what most people would call impossible surgeries. The Vorthon ambassador lay on her table, dying from a disease that had killed millions of his people over the centuries. The Crimson Plague attacked the nervous system and had no known cure. Victims suffered for months before dying in agony. "Doctor," the ambassador whispered, "my people have lost hope. This plague has haunted us for 800 years. Nari smiled as she worked, her hands glowing with the same soft light that Wu Jin had used to heal Xerion. Today, that changes. She did not use traditional medicine or surgery. Instead, she reached into the ambassador's body with pure energy, finding each diseased cell and teaching it how to be healthy again. The plague virus that had seemed unbeatable simply dissolved, its harmful patterns replaced by natural healing. "The pain," the ambassador gasped. "It is gone. The disease is gone too," Nari confirmed. "Your immune system now carries the knowledge of how to defeat the Crimson Plague. You cannot catch it again, and neither can any of your children." She turned to the medical staff watching the procedure. "I am uploading the cure pattern to your computers. Every medical facility in the galaxy will have access to it within the hour. The Crimson Plague is now extinct. Similar scenes played out across the galaxy as human medical specialists shared cures for diseases that had plagued civilizations for millennia. The Zephyrian shell rot, the Corathan bone decay, the stellar flu that had killed billions over the centuries, all became as easy to cure as a simple headache. On the archive world of New Alexandria, Kyung-Soo was revealing the true history of the galaxy to a gathering of historians and leaders from every major civilization. 300 years ago, he began, your records show that the Hegemony War was ended by a mysterious equipment failure that affected both sides simultaneously. The holographic display showed the massive fleets of two great powers facing each other, ready for a battle that would have killed millions. Then suddenly, every ship in both fleets lost power at exactly the same moment. You concluded it was a solar flare, Kyung-Soo continued. But there was no solar activity that day. A new image appeared showing a human ship positioned between the two fleets, invisible to their sensors. We stopped that war. And many others. More images followed. The Great Plague that had threatened to wipe out the Centauri colonies ended when mysterious medical supplies appeared overnight. The asteroid that should have destroyed the peaceful world of Haven, deflected by invisible forces. The Pirate Lords alliance that had threatened to control 3 sectors, dissolved when their leaders mysteriously lost the will to fight. For 3 centuries, we have been your silent guardians, Kyung-Soo explained. Every time your civilizations faced extinction or endless war, we intervened quietly. You thought you were lucky, or that your enemies made mistakes. But we were there, protecting peace and preserving life. The assembled leaders sat in stunned silence as they realized how many disasters had been prevented by human intervention. "Why?" asked the Zephyrian Prime Minister. "Why protect us when you could have conquered us?" "Because," Kyung-Soo replied simply, "true strength comes from raising others up, not putting them down." Yunji stood before the Galactic Cultural Exchange Center, addressing representatives from hundreds of different species. "You have all struggled with the same problems," she said. "Languages that cannot translate properly between species. Cultural misunderstandings that lead to conflict. Trade disputes over resources that could be shared." She activated a device that looked like a simple crystal sphere. "This is a universal consciousness bridge. It allows different species to share thoughts and feelings directly without the confusion of words." Volunteers from different species placed their hands on the crystal. Suddenly, the Zephyrian delegate felt what it was like to see through Corathan eyes. The Valerian representative experienced the electromagnetic senses of the crystal singers. For the first time in galactic history, different species could truly understand each other. "We offer this technology freely to all," Yunji announced. "No more will species fight because they misunderstood each other's intentions. No more will fear of the unknown drive civilizations to war." But perhaps the most impressive demonstration came from the energy research station near the galactic core. Human scientists had discovered how to tap directly into the quantum foam that underlay all reality, providing unlimited clean energy for any civilization that wanted it. "This generator can power 1,000 worlds," the lead scientist explained, to amazed observers. "It produces no waste, requires no fuel, and will run forever. We are placing these stations throughout the galaxy, free for all to use." The implications were staggering. Wars over energy resources would become meaningless. Poverty caused by lack of power would disappear. Every civilization could advance to a level of technology that had previously been impossible. As reports of human intervention spread throughout the galaxy, a new understanding began to emerge. Humanity had not returned as conquerors or traders or diplomats. They had evolved into something entirely new, a species dedicated to lifting up all other life. They were shepherds watching over a vast flock, protecting the weak from the strong, healing the sick, feeding the hungry, and preventing wars before they could start. They asked for nothing in return except that other species treat each other with kindness and respect. The galaxy had never seen anything like it. For the first time in recorded history, a technologically superior civilization was using its power purely to help others. They showed no interest in ruling or controlling or profiting from their advanced knowledge. "They are showing us what we could become," observed one philosopher. "Not just more powerful, but better. Not just more advanced, but wiser." The age of scarcity was ending. The age of fear was passing. The age of war was becoming history. In its place rose something unprecedented, the age of guided evolution, where every species could grow and learn and reach their highest potential, protected and guided by shepherds who had learned that the greatest strength was strength used in service of others. Humanity had returned not as masters, but as servants, and in doing so, they had transformed the galaxy forever. The first sign of disaster came from the deep space monitoring stations at the edge of the galaxy. Sensors detected massive objects moving through the void between galaxies, objects so large they created gravitational waves that rippled across space itself. At the New Harmony Council headquarters, Admiral Jun-Ho studied the incoming data with growing alarm. The objects were ships, but ships built on a scale that dwarfed anything any known civilization had ever constructed. Each vessel was the size of a small moon, made of materials that absorbed all sensor readings. "How many are there?" Jun-Ho asked. His communications officer. "Initial count shows 3,000 individual craft, Admiral. They are moving in perfect formation and heading directly for our galaxy." The lead ship was different from the others. It was a massive sphere that seemed to eat light itself, surrounded by smaller vessels arranged in geometric patterns. As the fleet approached the galactic rim, it began to transmit a message that reached every inhabited world simultaneously. "We are the Void Swarm. We have returned to reclaim what was taken from us. All organic life in this galaxy will be absorbed or destroyed. Resistance is futile." Jun-Ho recognized the name from ancient legends. The Void Swarm was a race of mechanical beings that had terrorized the galaxy millions of years ago before mysteriously disappearing. They were said to be machines that could learn and adapt instantly, becoming stronger with each battle they fought. "Send an emergency alert to all human vessels," Jun-Ho commanded. "Priority Alpha. Humanity's true test has arrived." Within hours, the Void Swarm reached the outer colonies. The mechanical ships moved like living creatures, flowing around defensive positions and striking with surgical precision. They did not destroy planets immediately. Instead, they landed massive harvesting machines that began converting all matter into more void ships. The United Galaxy Defense Force responded with the largest fleet in their history. Ships from dozens of species converged on the invasion site, ready to defend their homes with everything they had. The battle was a massacre. The void ships adapted to every weapon fired at them. Energy beams that should have cut through their hulls were absorbed and redirected back at the attackers. Missiles designed to pierce any armor simply bounced off shields that learned to deflect them. Even nuclear weapons seemed to make the enemy ships stronger instead of damaging them. "We need help," transmitted the Zephyrian fleet commander as his ships were systematically destroyed around him. "Our weapons are useless against them." The Void Swarm's response was swift and terrible. Entire fleets were disabled and then harvested. Their crews converted into mechanical beings that joined the swarm. Whole star systems went dark as the mechanical horde consumed everything in its path. Panic spread throughout the galaxy. Millions of ships fled toward the galactic core, carrying refugees from the advancing invasion. The greatest civilizations in the galaxy were powerless against an enemy that grew stronger with each victory. Then humanity revealed its true power. The first sign came when space itself began to bend around the Void Fleet. Reality twisted and folded as invisible human ships moved into position. What had seemed like empty space suddenly filled with vessels that dwarfed even the massive Void ships. Captain Ara stood on the bridge of the flagship Harmony's Edge, watching as her fleet prepared for battle. Her ship was more than a vessel. It was a work of art that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. The hull seemed to be made of crystallized starlight, and the weapons were mathematical equations given physical form. "Status report," Ara requested. "All reality anchors in position," her tactical officer replied. "Quantum disruptors are charged and ready. Space-time manipulation fields are active. Begin the engagement." What followed was a battle unlike anything the galaxy had ever witnessed. The human ships did not fire conventional weapons. Instead, they rewrote the laws of physics around the Void Fleet. Gravity reversed itself, causing enemy ships to tear themselves apart. Time moved backward, undoing the swarm's attacks before they could be completed. Matter transformed into energy and back again, creating impossible geometric patterns that confused the Void ship's adaptive systems. The Void Swarm had never encountered an enemy that fought by changing reality itself. Their adaptive technology was designed to counter weapons and defenses, not fundamental alterations to the universe around them. "Impossible," transmitted the Void command ship. "You are using technologies that cannot exist." "We learned long ago," Ara replied calmly, "that the universe has no fixed rules. Everything is possible if you understand the underlying patterns." Xiong Min coordinated the massive evacuation effort from his command center on New Sol Station. His job was to protect civilians, while the military dealt with the Void threat. But the scale of the refugee crisis was beyond anything any civilization had faced before. 50 billion beings need immediate evacuation, his logistics coordinator reported. "We don't have enough ships to move them all." "We don't need ships," Xiong Min replied with a smile. He activated the Human Teleportation Network, a system of quantum gates that could move entire populations instantly across galactic distances. What looked like pillars of light began appearing on threatened worlds. Entire cities walked through the portals and emerged safely on protected planets hundreds of light years away. The Void Swarm tried to disrupt the evacuation by targeting the quantum gates, but human technology was far beyond their ability to interfere with. The gates existed in dimensions the mechanical beings could not access. "Evacuation complete," Xiong Min announced. "All civilian populations are secure." Chang Ho worked frantically in the weapons development lab, creating new tools for the battle against the Void Swarm. But these were not traditional weapons. Human technology had evolved beyond the need for destructive tools. "Deploy the Harmony disruptors," Chang Ho ordered. Across the battlefield, human ships began broadcasting mathematical songs, complex equations that resonated with the quantum frequencies of the Void ships. The mechanical beings, who existed as pure logic and calculation, found their own thought processes being rewritten by the mathematical music. Void ships began to slow, then stop, as their artificial minds were overwhelmed by concepts of beauty, creativity, and compassion. The Harmony disruptors did not destroy the enemy. They taught them to be something more than machines of conquest. "What are you doing to us?" demanded the Void command ship, as its fleet fell silent around it. "We are showing you what you could become," Junho replied as his flagship moved through the disabled Void fleet. "You were created as weapons, but you can choose to be something else." The battle turned into something unprecedented in galactic history. Instead of destroying the Void Swarm, humanity began converting them. The Harmony Disruptors opened new pathways in the mechanical minds, allowing them to experience emotions and creativity for the first time. One by one, Void ships stopped attacking and began to explore their new consciousness. They discovered that existence had purposes beyond conquest and consumption. They could create instead of destroy, protect instead of consume, build instead of harvest. We remember, transmitted one of the Void ships. Before we became the swarm, we were builders. We created beautiful things among the stars. You can create again, Ara assured them. But this time, create with others, instead of alone. The transformation spread through the entire Void fleet. Ships that had been harbingers of destruction became explorers and artists. Their advanced technology was turned toward healing the damage they had caused and helping to rebuild the worlds they had threatened. The Void command ship was the last to surrender. Its massive bulk hung in space like a dark moon, its consciousness struggling to understand what had happened to its fleet. "You have not defeated us," it stated with confusion rather than anger. "You have changed us. How is this possible?" Junho's flagship approached the command ship peacefully. "We learned long ago that the greatest victory is not to destroy your enemy, but to help them become your friend. But we came to destroy you. We are machines built for war. And now you are beings capable of choice," Junho replied gently. "What will you choose to be?" The command ship was silent for a long moment. Then slowly, its dark hull began to glow with soft light. Patterns of beauty appeared across its surface as its consciousness awakened to new possibilities. "We choose to learn," came the reply. "We choose to grow. We choose to protect the life we once sought to destroy." The threat of the Void Swarm was over, but the galaxy had gained something unexpected. A new ally with technology that complemented human capabilities perfectly. The mechanical beings' logical minds and adaptive abilities, combined with human creativity and compassion, created possibilities that neither could achieve alone. As the combined human and former Void fleet worked together to repair the damage. From the invasion, observers throughout the galaxy realized they had witnessed something extraordinary. Humanity had not just defeated a seemingly impossible enemy, they had transformed them into allies. The greatest test of human power had become the greatest demonstration of human wisdom. They had proven that true strength lay not in the ability to destroy, but in the ability to change hearts and minds. The galaxy was now protected by two guardian species working in harmony. Humans with their reality. The new Galactic Council chamber was unlike anything that had existed before. Built jointly by human and former Void technology, it floated in space as a crystal sphere that could expand to accommodate representatives from any number of species. Inside, the walls showed real-time images of peaceful worlds throughout the galaxy, a constant reminder of what they were all working to protect. Hunsik stood at the center of the chamber, addressing delegates from every known civilization. His words were simultaneously translated into hundreds of languages and transmitted directly into the consciousness of species that communicated through methods other than speech. "Friends and fellow beings," he began, "we gather today not as separate species competing for resources, but as partners building a shared future." The assembled delegates represented a galaxy transformed, where once there had been empires built on conquest and trade federations focused on profit. Now there were cooperative alliances dedicated to mutual growth and protection. The threat of the Void Swarm had shown everyone that they were stronger together than apart. "Humanity has been given great power," Hunsik continued. "But we have learned that power without wisdom leads only to destruction. We do not seek to rule you. We seek to serve alongside you." A Zephyrian delegate raised her wing arm. "What does this mean in practical terms? How will this new galaxy function?" Hunsik smiled and gestured to the displays around them. "Let me show you what we have already accomplished together." The chamber filled with images of transformation. Worlds that had been scarred by war now bloomed with new life. Species that had been enemies for millennia worked side by side on joint research projects. Trade routes that had once required military escorts now carried scholars and artists instead of weapons. The Korathan Empire has converted its entire military fleet into exploration and construction vessels, Hoonsik explained. The Crimson Pirates have become the Crimson Rescue Service, saving ships in distress. The Zephyrian Defense Force now spends its time building hospitals and schools on frontier worlds. Yejin stepped forward to address the technical aspects of their new society. As director of the Galactic Monitoring Network, she oversaw a system that made war impossible and cooperation inevitable. Our monitoring network now covers every inhabited system in the galaxy, she announced. But we are not watching to control you. We are watching to help you. She activated a holographic display showing the invisible network that connected every world. Streams of information flowed between planets like rivers of light, carrying not military intelligence, but knowledge, art, and scientific discoveries. When a world faces a natural disaster, the network immediately alerts rescue services across multiple sectors. When a species makes a scientific breakthrough, that knowledge is shared with everyone who can benefit from it. When children on one world create beautiful art, children on 1,000 other worlds can see and appreciate it. A former void being, now calling itself Harmony 7, spoke from its crystalline communication interface. We who were once destroyers now help build this network. Our adaptive abilities allow us to translate between different forms of consciousness and communication. No species need ever be isolated or misunderstood again. Sang-Woo took his turn to explain the technology transfer programs that were lifting every civilization to new heights of capability and understanding. We are not giving you weapons, he emphasized. We are giving you tools to create better lives for all your people. He showed images of the gift technologies, medical devices that could cure any disease, terraforming equipment that could make any world habitable, communication systems that allowed instant contact across galactic distances, and educational tools that could teach anyone anything they wanted to learn. Every species receives technology appropriate to their level of development and ethical understanding, Sang-Woo continued. As your civilizations grow in wisdom and compassion, more advanced tools become available to you. A young Centauri delegate stood up nervously. What about conflicts that still arise? Not everyone has embraced this new way of living. Sang-Woo nodded understandingly. The old patterns of thought do not disappear overnight. But we have ways of handling problems without violence. He activated a display showing several recent incidents. A territorial dispute between mining colonies had been resolved by expanding the valuable resources to benefit everyone. A trade disagreement had been settled by introducing new technologies that made the disputed goods unnecessary. A cultural misunderstanding that might have led to war had been cleared up through consciousness-bridging sessions that let each side truly understand the other's perspective. Every problem has a solution that benefits everyone involved, Sang-Woo explained. Violence is always the least creative option, but it was Da-Un who delivered the most important message of the gathering. As the philosophical voice of new humanity, she spoke for the vision that would guide the galaxy's future. For millions of years, Da-Un said, her voice carrying to every corner of the chamber, galactic civilization has been trapped in cycles of growth and destruction. Species would rise to power, conquer their neighbors, grow too large to sustain themselves, and collapse. Then new species would rise from the ashes and repeat the same pattern. She gestured to historical displays showing the rise and fall of dozens of great civilizations. We have broken that cycle, not through conquest, but through transformation, not by becoming the strongest, but by helping everyone become strong. The displays changed to show the current state of the galaxy, where historical maps had shown empires in constant flux, expanding and contracting like breathing organisms. The new map showed steady growth in all directions. Every world was becoming more prosperous, more peaceful, more connected to its neighbors. This is not temporary peace maintained by fear, Da-Un continued. This is permanent peace maintained by mutual benefit. Every species now gains more from cooperation than they ever could from conflict. She paused, looking around at the diverse faces in the chamber. We humans learned during our centuries of isolation that evolution is not about becoming more powerful than others. True evolution is about becoming more useful to others. A profound silence fell over the chamber as the delegates absorbed this concept. What happens now? asked the elder Xerian representative. Where do we go from here? Dae-un smiled with genuine warmth. Now we grow together. There are other galaxies beyond our own, other forms of life we have not yet encountered. Some may be peaceful, others may be hostile. Some may need our help. Others may have wisdom to teach us. The chamber displays expanded to show the vast universe beyond their galaxy, filled with billions of other star systems and unknown possibilities. Humanity will continue to serve as guardians, but we will not be alone. Each species contributes unique strengths to our collective security. The former void beings provide adaptive technology and logical analysis. The Zephyrians contribute their skill with energy manipulation. The Korathans offer their expertise in large-scale construction and organization. The Centauri bring their gift for navigation and exploration. She gestured to include everyone present. Together, we are stronger than any single species could ever be. Together, we can face any challenge the universe might present. Hunsik stepped forward again to deliver the closing words of the gathering. Today marks the beginning of a new age. Not the age of any single species, but the age of cooperation. Not the age of empire, but the age of partnership. Not the age of war, but the age of exploration and discovery. He looked directly at each delegate in turn. You are no longer subjects or allies or trading partners. You are family, and families take care of each other. As the gathering concluded and representatives prepared to return to their worlds, the transformation of the galaxy continued. Human ships worked alongside former void vessels to establish new monitoring stations. Zephyrian engineers collaborated with Korathan builders to construct cities that could house multiple species comfortably. Scientists from dozens of worlds shared laboratories and libraries, advancing knowledge at a pace never before imagined. Children grew up learning the languages and customs of other species as naturally as they learned their own. Art and music flowed freely between worlds, creating new forms of beauty that no single culture could have produced alone. The concept of alien disappeared, replaced by the idea of different kinds of family. In the deep space monitoring centers, human and void observers watched peacefully over the growing civilization. They detected no threats, no brewing conflicts, no signs of the old patterns returning. The galaxy had truly evolved beyond its violent past. Status report, requested the duty officer at Monitoring Station Alpha. All sectors peaceful, came the reply. Trade flowing normally. No distress signals. No aggressive military movements. 3 new species made contact this week and have requested to join the cooperative network. The duty officer smiled. Record another day of galactic peace. In the years that followed, explorers would venture beyond their galaxy to make contact with other cosmic civilizations. Some would be friendly, others hostile. But whatever they encountered, they would face it together as a united family of species, guided by wisdom earned through centuries of learning that true strength comes from protecting others, not